everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. We are picking right back up with my rainbow bustle project today in this week's video. And if you haven't seen the other two videos on this project so far, I will link the playlist right up here so that you can go check those out if you want to before you watch this one. But as you can see, we already have the kind of base of a bodice here, and what you probably can't see is that I also have the base of a skirt here. So we need to elaborate on these bases. And the first thing that I'm going to work on, despite the weather outside being very warm and making me not want to make these right now, are sleeves, because obviously this bodice doesn't look like much of a bodice. So if you missed those other two videos, again, this is the project right here. And as you can see, we have fitted sleeves and they have quite a bit of a cuff down at the bottom, but we're going to start with those fitted sleeves. I do have sleeve mock-ups from when I've done other Victorian stuff in the past. This is going to be a two-piece fitted sleeve, meaning like the inner piece and the outer piece. And I am going to just like sew together the sleeve mock-up and put it on this bodice and see if any changes need to be made. Hopefully they don't, because that would make my life a whole lot easier. So let's go ahead and put that mock-up together and see what all needs to be done. Yay, successful mock-up. So this was literally just like in one of the pattern bags. I don't remember if it was in the bag that this was in, but it was just out laying on my table. And I know I pulled it out like a week ago or so and kind of put it to the side as like, this is a fitted sleeve mock-up. Fitted long sleeve mock-up, I might add. So I'm going to cut off the bottom edge of this. And actually what I am going to do is at some point in this fitting, I did a tuck in here. You can see that tuck right here. Yes, the sleeve is inside out because I prefer to fit things inside out so that I can get to the seams. But I put a tuck in here. I could already tell just by like putting this on, because this was already sewn together, and just by sliding it on before I had put it on the bodice, I could tell that the sleeve was too small for my upper arm. So I already undid most of the tuck until about the elbow. It's still just a tiny bit tight in this lower part of my arm here. So I am going to open this up a tiny bit more right there, and then I'm going to taper it so that it's fully opened up from about here up, because that's where I'm actually like needing the space right here. It's a little bit too big where I've opened it up. So yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to cut off the excess down here. The reason why it doesn't look 100% smooth to you up here is because I didn't put in the ease stitches. You're supposed to run a like long length stitch, kind of like a gathering stitch. You're supposed to run at least one of them. You can run two if you want, around a sleeve head for a fitted sleeve. And that will kind of pull everything in and ease it in so that you can put it in completely flat with no gathers. I didn't do that because I had already started pinning by the time I remembered I was supposed to do that. And so I just kind of fitted it in. And therefore we wound up with a couple tucks. Also, apparently I forgot to take one of the pins out. So that's what's going on right here, is it's pulling a little bit because there's still a pin in there and I'm just not stabbing myself somehow with it. But yeah, otherwise though, I mean, we've got the fitted sleeve. That is excellent. My one thing is like, by the time it's getting down here, this is rotating really weirdly. I don't know if you can see this. Like, yeah, I might need to rotate this down a little bit, because although it is fitting, this seam should not be this far up. It should probably be more like this. So I'll probably rotate that down about an inch, that seam, because it's winding up very like on the upper part of my arm over here, which is not what I want. Maybe it doesn't even have to go a full inch, might just need to go half an inch. But overall, we've got a successful sleeve. I am going to mark off the place where it needs to end, which is just a little bit below the elbow here, and take it apart and cut it out of the cotton sateen. I think I am honestly not going to line it, because this is a pretty thick sateen and right now it's summer and a lined sleeve sounds like not very pleasant. So I'm going to cut this just out of the sateen and no lining. And once I have that set in, we can start to figure out these very funky cuffs, because we have like an upper standing cuff right there, but we also have this ruched area right here. So that's just going to be sateen that is gathered up and laid on top of the other. And then I think I'm going to attach the cuff up there. And then we've got some little like zigzaggy tiny little bit and then some lace. So I'll pick that out. I also have to figure out what lace is going to go along the front of the bodice. Whatever's at the sleeve is the same as at the collar, like little little gathered up lace, but that drapey lace that's going to go down the front of the bodice, I have to figure that out too. So I'm going to look through my stash, see what I have for trims, and put together the actual sleeve. Oh, and actually I can see why this sleeve is rotated a little too far back. When I put on this sleeve, I marked the apex of my shoulder thinking that was where the seam was, the shoulder seam. It's not. As you can see, the shoulder seam is actually a little bit further back than the apex of my shoulder, just like here. So there's our discrepancy right there. So let's talk about the sleeve trimming for a moment. You can see we've got 2 rows of eyelet lace and then 2 additional little ruffled rows, and one of them is yellow and one of them is pink. And then we have kind of this squinched down cuff of the blue sateen and then the rainbow stripes cut on the bias. So really I think that this is a whole separate piece, all of the squinched part, and this is away from the elbow. Frankly, that means that it creates even more layers because we would need a fitted piece underneath this. So that's 3 layers down there, and I don't particularly want to have that many layers around the part of my arm that like makes me the warmest, basically like the inner elbow. So I am going to fit the scrunch down part to the upper sleeve and basically seam this little seam where I'm pointing to right now, seam that to the sleeve because that saves me one whole layer. And for the pink and yellow, I have looked at these right here. Now, this is just from my stash. This is I think it's a symphony broadcloth, to be honest. I'm not really sure. And then this over here, I also got from Cali Fabrics while I was ordering this sateen. So it's like the exact same type of sateen. It is just pink, and I got like 1 or 2 yards. Obviously, I don't need that much. I just need a tiny little strip. So I am going to make little strips of this and gather it, hem the edge on the machine, etc. And those will be ready to go into that end of the sleeve portion over here, along with the 2 rows of lace. Now, I've been looking through some of my laces and I've been trying to figure out, like, I have so much eyelet lace in my stash. I really do. And I never know what to use it on. So I've been trying to figure out kind of like the history of how eyelet lace was used. And it does seem like eyelet lace was sometimes a thing in the 1880s. So I want to play around first with the lace that creates the drape down in the front here, because like if we look closely at it, I feel like it does kind of look like eyelet lace, but I don't know yet if any of the eyelet lace that I have is actually going to work for that, because like I looked at this one right here and the width seemed about right, but it just was like really plain and kind of bulky looking. Like all of my eyelet lace is really pretty stiff and I want something that has a nice drape to it. So like of the laces in my stash, the 2 that seemed like they were going to drape the best was going to be this one, because that just has a really nice like droopy drape to it basically. And then this one, if it's gathered. Right now it obviously doesn't drape the right way because it is flat, it's not gathered, but I have just enough of this and just enough of this that I could use them for the bodice. Though of course the other question is, what happens to the lace? You can see the lace comes here to where her hand is and then disappears. So I don't know if it's like coming together around the button placket, if they meant for it to go further and did this weird little thing instead. I have to figure out what's going on there and see if I can find any other bodices that maybe are similar with like a similar lace front that doesn't get obstructed by an arm in between, to see how I want that to resolve. Because since I'm not doing this weird treatment right here, I might want the lace to go all the way down, or I might want it to like V together kind of right there and end at the natural waist, kind of like it looks like hers does. This piece here, which is vaguely trapezoidal, though I feel like you're not really getting the full effect of it on camera here. This is the cuff. So it's about 2 inches shorter down here than it is up here. I know from here, from this angle, it looks completely straight. I'm trying to give you a better angle, but it's really not working. But this trapezoidal shape here, this is the cuff. It is twice as high as it's going to be. So this is going to be shrunk down to about 3.5 inches of the like ruched cuff, etc. Once I seam this end to end, there's going to be gathering stitches on the seam, and I think I'm going to do midpoint gathering stitches as well. You can really only see the like edge gathering stitches. You can see it on this sleeve right here. Do you see there's like a little line? To me, that is where the stitching is for that ruching. And you can't really see it here, but you know, presumably it'd be somewhere around the elbow. And frankly, we kind of need that to be able to keep that down, if not more than just that. So I'm going to do 2 gathering stitches in there, and it's trapezoidal because obviously the arm is slightly larger here than it is here. And hopefully that works out. I have also cut my little strips for the ruffles, cut/ripped. So this one, I think I'm not going to be able to do as dense because it is a thicker fabric. So I've kind of designed this to be a 2-to-1 ratio ruffle. This, I did the full width of the fabric. I tested it at a slightly more than 3-to-1 ratio, which is basically the full width anyway. So that should be fine. I am going to put hems on these, serge the top edge that we're not going to see, and then gather that up on the machine. So those are the ruffles and the ruching. I'm going to wait on the lace till I can test more stuff out, and I do still have to figure out the actual rainbow cuff of it all. As it turns out, this wants a 3-to-1 ratio as well. This is just slightly more than 3, and that is like really the max, or I guess loosest I could do. So I'm going to cut or rip another half of one of these strips, and one of them will be 3/4 width, and the other will be a half and a 1/4 width, and that will be the pink ruffles. I have assembled all of my little like ruffles and the ruched sections and everything that go on the sleeve. So I just need to make the bias cut cuff. So I did some math and I came up with this little like, I don't know, reverse trapezoidal shape. I don't know what shape we call this. I mean, frankly, I guess it's a form of hexagon. But basically this is going to be folded in half along this larger length right here, so that this is where it goes into the blue ruched section below it and attaches to the sleeve. And frankly, with scale math, it was telling me that it only needed to be 2 inches wide for the cuff, but I feel like looking at this on her arm, 2 inches is really pretty narrow. I'm tempted to at least go 2 1/4. I think I am gonna go 2 1/4. And so then you add seam allowance, so that would be 2 3/4, and then double that, so 5.5 inches total, which is like the total width of the cuff here. And that includes 2 seam allowances basically. So I am going to cut those. I decided that the bias that I liked best was basically if one of these little diagonal lines on my ruler went from one stripe to the other stripe. So I don't know what angle this is, but I liked that angle, like the look of that on the stripes. So I'm going to cut 2 of those on the bias. That is going to be interfaced with iron-on interfacing. Hopefully I have enough. And I'm going to make the cuff by putting the ends together first, and after I fuse it, of course, to the interfacing, and then turning it right side out, folding in half, etc. I'll show you what that looks like as we go. This is what those shapes look like. This is both of them. So let's go ahead and get them cut out and fused to some interfacing. Well, darn, I was worried about this. I cut both of them side by side like I showed you, and I was hoping that when like they get folded over, etc., it would be able to be folded in a way that it would be reverse of the one. It can't. It's the same. So I need to recut this one on the opposite bias. I'm wasting a lot more fabric, of course, in the process, but I really want these stripes to be opposite of each other. And yeah, none of these are opposite. They're all the same. So I'm going to attempt to even match the color striping. I don't know if I can do that, but it's really annoying. The only way would be, of course, to turn it inside out, but this fabric is not the same on the inside as it is on the outside. It is significantly dimmer on the inside. I don't know if you can tell the difference between the two. Honestly, on camera, it almost looks the same, but it is dimmer. So yeah, I think I'm gonna recut. That's better. Okay, now let's add the interfacing. So this is what it looks like interfaced with the ends sewn together. I am now going to kind of clip this corner across so that it basically goes away, and then it gets turned so that it winds up looking like this. So now this one is ready to add to the sleeve. I'm now taking these 2 pieces and right sides together. I'm going to go ahead and just sew them together and then turn them out, and they'll basically be stacked one on top of the other. So this is what the upper portion currently looks like with these 2 pieces put together, and we're going to put that aside for a moment, and we're going to do a little hem on here, just a machine hem. Just turn this twice really narrow and do a little machine hem. I just kind of have the pin just like stuck in place just so you can see that. Once that is done, then these are both going to get get top stitched on. The yellow is underneath the pink, and so that's going to get machine stitched to the edge there, and then the pink is going to go on slightly higher so that they're just staggered a little bit, and the top edge of the pink is going to be covered over by taking the bottom edge of this and folding it and then just overlapping it with the pink. This one, I haven't decided if I'm going to sew this part by hand or if I'm going to machine stitch that as well, or if I can even do it like right sides together and then turn it up, but we will cross that bridge when we get to it. I've actually decided to put the lace on first. I did decide to go with this lace and not the eyelet lace. I just like the look of it better, and I'm putting this on first so that I can tell how far up the yellow needs to sit. I am just going to go ahead and machine sew this as well, and basically what's going to happen is that the inner or lower row of lace, that has to get attached like pretty much as far as I can to the edge, and I'm hoping to attach both of them at once. I think we'll see if I can do that, but the other one is going to sit a little bit further up, so you can see that is this one right here, so they're going to be just like a little bit offset. I actually decided to put the lace on the outside of the sleeve because that way I could start with the bottom one and then do the top one separately. Also, I figured that this could potentially be more itchy if it was inside than on the outside, and no one's going to see it anyway. So now that that is on, I will put the yellow on and then the pink. So sleeve one is nearly complete. Right now, I think you can probably see the pins that are going around over here that I just stabbed myself with. So I've got the bottom of the blue part pinned in place, and then same with on like the gathering sections. Those are pinned in place and have to be stitched. I'm just a little bit concerned because it is so thick. Like, it feels like I am just wearing so much fabric right here, and like I mentioned before, that is kind of where like gives me the most heat. So yeah, it's definitely a bit concerning, but this is what it looks like. It also looks a little clown-like, which I am not sure that I'm loving. So I'm gonna do the other one, but I'm tempted to like set this in the bodice and do some other things for now and see what it looks like with the bodice, and if I maybe need to remove some of these ruffles or make them less ruffly or something like that, because it looks like a clown cake basically, and I'm not sure I'm here for that. I am also realizing now that I kind of just pinned this in place at the shoulder, I have the wrong cuff on this. These stripes are meant to go the other way. This is supposed to be on the other side. So I guess I actually have to unpin this and put the other one on this side because, yeah, I wanted the stripes to face that way. So since I'm still not really feeling this, and this is just so bulky, I have decided to try something else. And that is, I went in my stash and I was looking for yellow and pink trim, like maybe a lace or an eyelet or whatever. I did determine lace was not going to work because then you can see the colors below it. However, this eyelet is like the perfect shade of yellow, and it's just like nice and light. Now, I did not have any light pink eyelet, or any pink eyelet period that wasn't super, super wide. So I decided to like lay on some white eyelet and just kind of look at the texture and see what that looked like. And I like the texture there. So I dyed some of it pink. It came out like a little bit more of a, I don't know, is florid the right word? Florid pink. Like it's just a little bit too bright. I feel like I did mix some orange in to try and tone it down a little, and get some of that purple out. I still feel like it's a little bright, but it is still drying. So I tried to press it to get some of the damp out, but it is definitely still damp. Like I can't sew it on yet. However, I still think that it actually looks pretty good against the yellow and the white, and I think that this is like still a pink that, you know, we can find within the stripe, so it's gonna be fine. So yeah, I think I'm gonna try this for this sleeve and see if I need to redo the two trim pieces on the other sleeve, because this just seems like it's gonna be a lot kind of lighter and nicer. So I'm definitely feeling this more. It will depend on what this literally feels like on my arm, because the other one just feels so bulky, but I'm liking the idea of this. All right, I put the pink on even though it is still damp, and this side is looking so much better. Honestly, I think I have too much blue here. Like, it's just too much fabric getting scrunched down into too little space. So I think I'm going to actually unpin the bottom of this or all of this and cut off like maybe even a full inch, because that will help eliminate a lot of bulk over here, and it will still look ruched enough. It just won't be like piled on top of each other like it is. Because originally I was going to ruche this down to 3.5 inches, and that actually made it go too high up the sleeve. And so I ruched it down to, what is that, like 2 inches or something like that? There's too much fabric there. So although there's more space back here, yeah, I just need to cut some of that out. Unfortunately, that might mean redoing my gathering stitches as well. But this pink lace look looks so much better than the ruffles that I spent so much time working on, hemming, etc. Yeah, I should have done this from the get-go because I like the eyelet lace look instead, and I like that it's like a different texture with the eyelet lace versus the regular lace. I think that looks really nice, and it just looks so much better. So I took out 1 inch of the bulk that's being gathered up here, and I feel like I actually could go even further. I'm going to think about it overnight and fix the other sleeve at least to this point, and then decide if I want to take even more out of the blue section. Both sleeves now have the eyelet trim on, and I did take out 1 extra inch of the blue, and I had actually sewn down the blue so that it was 2 inches here and 2.5 inches in the back, and it was still just like too scrunched, and this was sitting too low on the arm. So I then unpicked that, and that's why it's still pinned, is because I'm not positive if I like this, but I added 1/2 inch. I just kind of spread it out more so that it's 2.5 inches here, 3 inches in the back, like how wide the blue is. And I have also set both of the sleeves. So now I think I'm going to move back down to the ruffles on the skirt. So skirt update, I have applied the first ruffle that I made in the first video of this project. So it was basically already done. I literally just sewed the ends of the ruffle together and then matched where I had marked like the seam lines went and just sewed it down. I did sew it down both at the top and also the bottom, and then these I didn't sew down, but at the ends of each of the gathering stitches I tied the ends together so that they will hopefully not come undone or anything like that, and so that they are kind of flush down with the skirt. I have now marked the next one down where the top of that ruffle will go, but I still have to make that ruffle. I have it cut out, I have the pieces sewn end to end. I am currently hemming that ruffle, and then I will press down the top edge, which is what I did with the first one as well. I just press it down. I actually like sew the hem on the bottom, but I don't on the top because one of the lines of the gathering is going to go through that and hold that in place. And instead of doing this on the machine like I did the first one, I actually have a smocking pleater to be able to use. Now I have not tried using this at all. This has been so wonderfully loaned to me by Chris, aka Prince of Snark Cosplay. I don't really know how to use it yet. He did show me like a little bit of a demo, so I'm probably going to do a little test piece to see how it goes and then go with my ginormously long pieces to run through this. I am excited to use it, but also scared because new technology, even though it's completely mechanical, it's not technological, but it is to me new technology. So yeah, we will be using that shortly, but first I've got to finish doing this hem, and even this ruffle is just like miles and miles and miles long because it is 3 times the width of the skirt. So I have everything marked as far as like where my seam lines go and where the center front goes, and then once it gets all pulled up, then I'll be able to match it in place. But before then, we will be using a smocking pleater for the first time together. Okay, so I've watched a couple of videos on how to use the smocking pleater on YouTube. I'll link to one of them below, which I found the most helpful. And according to Chris, you can just use thread that is long enough for like whatever you are sewing it to, which in my case is over 100 inches. I did the math. Yeah, I need 91.25 inches. That's how wide around the skirt is that I'm attaching this to. So I am going to cut mine probably like 120 inches and have a really long tail, because he said that if you are not careful and you have too short of a tail, it can escape through the needle and then you have to start all over again. So I don't want to do that. Everything is also saying to roll stuff up on a dowel of some sort. The holes in the smocking pleater where you would put the dowel seemed to be the right size for a paper towel tube. And since I just finished a roll of paper towels today, I had a paper towel tube. However, this is so thick because this is so much fabric, like this part is so thick that I think I'm gonna wind up running into the like actual bars of the smocking pleater, and I have a feeling this is not going to work for me. I'm also torn on whether I've actually rolled this up the right way. Other things that I was seeing online also were saying, like, especially if you're doing a skirt or something, you would have the bulk of the skirt like not in the smocking pleater. So basically your fabric will wind up kind of running through this little gap right here, and you'd have all of it coming out this end. Mine is a ruffle, and I just feel like it's going to be easier to line stuff up if I have the very top of the ruffle right here at the edge of the smocking pleater, and then I've got the 6 smocks over here, or sorry, 7 smocks over here, and then the rest of the ruffle will come down here and just go through it. I realize that it could get a tiny crinkle to it, but frankly, it's a ruffle anyway, so it doesn't really bother me. So I've got this just about rolled up. I don't know if this is gonna fit in there, but I will attempt to set you up so that you guys can actually watch what I'm doing here. And I'm going to thread the smocking pleater and we'll see what happens. Sure enough, this doesn't fit. There's too much fabric on there. So I'm gonna have to take it off the paper towel roll and figure out something else to put it on. Like I have a literal dowel. It's actually the dowel that I used to make my giant needle for my Hussif costume a few years ago. So it's like, I could put it on this, but that seems really thin. So I don't know. I don't think I have anything kind of in between these widths. Also, this is really long, so it just seems like it would be a little bit silly. But I'm looking around my room trying to think of like if I have anything else that is rounded and it's a little bit thicker than this and thinner than a paper towel tube, and I don't think I do. So I guess I will try it on this and we'll see if that works. I wish that I had some of the PVC piping that I use or I used to make like victory rolls and the little like hair buckles for 18th century, but I don't think any of my PVC piping is long enough. It's all cut into like this long. I'm gonna go double check my like hair drawer because that's where those live and see. But yeah, I don't think they're long enough to stretch across the pleater. So I'm threading these needles with a very, very long piece of thread each, and I'm going to tie a big knot, I think, at the very end, just so that it doesn't fall off the end. Okay, I have my extremely long threads that I'm worried are going to totally tangle. I have my fabric that is like semi-rolled on my tube turner, which is what I wound up using here. And I kind of fed the very end of it into the pleater, and we are just going to see if this works. I'm really nervous, guys. I don't know if this is gonna work at all. Okay. Okay. Okay, we're on the needles. Ah, okay. And then I think everything was saying you kind of have to manually slide it down as you go so that it gets onto the threads, because otherwise it's gonna like kind of back up here. Look at that pretty rainbow. Oh my gosh, that's pretty. Let's just keep going. Oh, uh-oh, it's really hard to turn. I feel like I'm jammed. Am I jammed? Did I go too close to the edge? See, this is why I'm scared. So, okay, we're not turning. What's going on here? We're jammed. Crap. Well, it seemed like it was going well. I don't know why. Oh, it tried to grab the next, because I have this so like loosely rolled, it was trying to grab more of the fabric. I'm just gonna try and maybe keep that away. Now I'm getting a clicking noise and it's making me nervous. Oh shoot, this needle is no longer going through. I don't want to break Chris's needles. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna take this off and pause and take a look at these needles, which I hopefully don't have to completely thread all over again. Oh shoot. Yeah, something with this needle is out of whack. So hold that thought. So unfortunately, that needle is bent because this is what that looks like right now. And this is what it is supposed to look like. Hopefully you can see the difference there. So I cannot use this needle. I'm gonna have to toss this one and buy Chris new needles. There is one spare that he sent with me, though I need that to do the larger ruffles. So I'm gonna use that for now, and I'm going to buy Chris some more needles. Okay, we're gonna try this again. This time we are not going to get the roll of the fabric near to over here, apparently, because that doesn't end well. I'm finding that like kind of tucking the end in first is really pretty challenging. We're in. Let's hope this goes better. Okay, we are on the needles. So far, so good. And we can just slide down. And naturally, as soon as I started doing that, my battery died. So let's keep going. I think I'm gonna have to like keep an eye over here to make sure that it's staying like as far as it should go over to the side, and that it's not kind of tucking in on itself, because it seems like it kind of wants to do that, which I suppose is the hazard of like not actually sewing this edge, this hem on this edge, just folding it. But, and I suppose that also, like, I don't know if having this on the roller would help, like on a dowel roller. But yeah, it does feel like it's trying to, I know you guys can't see it, but basically I'm talking about like right here, it's trying to kind of shrink in on itself and do like a weird little tuck. And I don't know how to get that, stop it. But hopefully it will just smooth itself out. Ooh, this is stressful. It's probably good the camera's not trained on my face right now, because I'm making all sorts of weird facial reactions, because you can see right here that it's definitely going like a different distance away from the edge. And I don't want that to happen. I want it to be the same distance from the edge, because otherwise it means all of this is going to be slightly skewed. Well, I'm going to keep going at this off camera because this looks like it might take me 3 years. So I'll show you what it looks like when it is done, and or if something else disastrous happens, which hopefully, knock on wood, it won't. Well, I definitely just bent or broke another needle. This first one, this is completely at the wrong angle. I tried to then like take this tube out to see if I could resettle it. It's not resettling, which means that I have bent or broken it again. I don't know how this happened. Like literally, I've done this much. That's it. So I guess I'm doing this by machine, because I've now bent more needles than I can get away. Like I need all of these needles. I have no idea why that one bent. You know, I think I may have just gotten to a seam in my fabric. And so it's possible that that is like, maybe you can't put a seam through here. I honestly do not know. But yep, I'm at the seam. The other thing that's weird is that it's definitely feeding this side over here faster through. So I think things are trying to pivot this way, which obviously that doesn't really work. Like now it feels like it's flat. What's the chance I can just put this tube back on and it will work again? But as soon as I put the tube on, I feel like the shape of this needle is not what it's meant to be. Because as soon as I put the tube on, this is pushing up. I'm going to try and twist it, but oh, I don't even think this tube is on all the way. Oh, you guys, I was really looking forward to this. I was looking forward to not having to gather this by machine. This won't even go back in. I don't know what's going on here, but well, it was pretty well it lasted. Didn't last at all, so ugh, it's so frustrating. And now I have to figure out where to buy Chris new needles. Glad I didn't invest $250 in one of these myself. Also, I don't know how to get this off now. I don't know how to take this bar off. Like, it's not a screw, but obviously we're kind of stuck here because I've still got this much left back here. And, oh, yep, there's like a kink or something in, or is it just shoved out? Like, it seemed farther out than the other needles. Okay, I'm gonna try one more time. But I don't think this is where it, no, this tube isn't going back where it needs to go. No. That's really too bad. That's really a shame. It's gonna be so much work to do all this smocking. Oh, guys. Why did I pick this project? Oh, this needle full on broke. I don't know if you can see that at all, but the needle is there and there's a tiny piece of needle there. So yeah, it full on broke, and now Cookie just walked through all of my hundreds of inches of threads. This sucks. Thanks, guys. That's all. Okay, so it looks like to take it out, you can kind of just do this and wiggle it out. There we go. And then I'll just feed this through here if I can, which I don't know. I can't when it's rolled up, but I don't need it rolled up if I'm doing this by machine anyway. And this is the needle that broke. So you can see again, should look like that. Whole curve broke off from the needle, alas. So I am still working on the ruffling over here, and I still have obviously a lot to do because this takes a really, really long time. But I do want to turn my attention to the collar so that I can kind of relatively finish up the bodice. That's my hope. I mean, it's not going to be finished yet, but I would love to get to the collar. So this is the collar shape, just to remind you all. And collars are always kind of a struggle for me, like drafting my own collars. I feel like it's so much trial and error to see what works. And I like to start with a actual collar pattern that is at least somewhat similar to kind of use as my jumping off point. And so for this one, I went through all of my stash of patterns and I found Simplicity 8262, which is this coat pattern. And you can see that she's got kind of a collar that does a little bit of a standing moment. Hers is obviously a lot wider and it's very wide and rounded in the back, which we don't need it to be that big. This collar piece looks like this. This is obviously on the fold. So I am going to cut this down some and make it a little bit shorter, but I am going to use this as the overall base. And I think that because this is so flat, by the time it gets to be rounded, what it does is it kind of poofs up, and that's what I need. I need a collar to like poof up and then come down. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, but I'm basically just going to cut out a mock-up that is, you know, almost this shape, and we're going to try it on with the bodice and see what it does. I just went to cut out this collar and realized that I had forgotten to measure this versus my bodice neckline. It is so far off. It's 10.5 inches from end to midpoint of the bodice neckline. I didn't even actually measure this. I just held the tape measure up. 10.5 inches is like here. So you can see how much is left. So I have to, I guess, drastically change the shape, which is, you know, not particularly fun, but we'll figure it out. So somehow, miraculously, I think I actually got this pattern exactly right. I don't have my corset on right now, so I can't actually like put the bodice on all the way, but this seems like the right shape. I do wonder, I feel like, I mean, I've just made this out of cotton organdy, so it's very light and very wishy-washy. But I do wonder if back here, it actually maybe needs to be like slashed and spread out just a little, because I feel like it's hitting my back and then crumpling and crinkling. So I think that might need a little bit of extra width right there. But otherwise it seems exactly right. I thought that this was going to be including seam allowance, but frankly, I'm going to add seam allowance to this because I feel like this outline is the exact shape that I want for this collar. And so I don't want it to take away seam allowance. Having this on, I am also honestly very nervous about this right here. This is so tight, and it's oddly, it's the bottom of it that feels tight, and it only feels tight when I bend my arms, but it feels significantly tighter than this one somehow, maybe? I don't know. It could also be that they're not sitting in quite the right place because I don't have my corset on. I can't do it up all the way. So I'm gonna leave it for now, but I may have to address that later. But yeah, I think I'm gonna slash and spread the very center back of this, just see if I can get it to go out just a little bit and like inset a tiny little gusset of fabric there to see what will happen. But otherwise, I think we have the collar pattern. Okay, here we go. I put in a 1-inch gusset in the back, literally just split it right up the center and opened it up 1 inch down at the bottom. It's perfect. Look at that. That is the exact right shape. I'm super thrilled with this. I'm going to add seam allowance all along the outside of this, and I have to figure out exactly what the stripes look like. I mean, we only have the one side showing on here, so I don't know if the stripes are meant to be opposite or like what's going to happen basically when I cut it. I want the stripes to be reverse of each other. So it's possible that I may have to have a center back seam in this as well. But I'm gonna have to like draw stripes on here basically is what I'm going to do to make them opposite, and then lay it on the fabric and see if that would wind up being opposite, or if I'm going to need to cut two separate pieces and kind of get a little chevron look in the back as well. So yeah, I'm going to play around with that and cut out the actual fabric. I'm going to make it rainbow on both sides and then have interfacing on the inside, and that should be good. So yeah, I will have to cut this not on the fold because while it was still attached to the bodice, I just drew in some lines here of like the approximate shape that I wanted the striped lines to go. And as you can see, if I approximately line them up, this is nowhere near anywhere that I can be on the fold. At least I don't think that if I fold this, that these will both be on like the lines that I want. I'm pretty sure, I mean, this piece is not wide enough, period, but yeah, if I were to attempt to fold that, you can see that this side is going a completely different direction. So I'm gonna have a seam up the center back, but that is totally okay. Look at that lovely pattern match. It is so nice and easy to match patterns when you can see the pattern through the fabric. Like you can see the stripes through the layers. So it makes things way, way easier. So I've got two collars matched up here. I'm going back and forth on whether I should cut another thing of interfacing and interface both sides. I'm kind of thinking potentially yes, but I think I'm gonna put this one on one and see the like weight of that and the stiffness of that, and then decide if I need to cut another. So yeah, just feeling this interfacing in here, I am gonna interface both layers because this definitely doesn't really feel thick enough to me. I mean, this is sheer fabric. I should have expected this, but I don't love the fact that you can see the diagonals then going the opposite direction underneath. There's nothing I can do about it, especially now that I have put the interfacing on here. But yeah, that's not my favorite thing. I guess it makes for an interesting pattern, and it's in the back, so whatever. But I'm gonna go ahead, cut out another interfacing and put that on the other side, and then we can put the collar together. All of my pieces are now sewn together along the outside. I'm going to trim this seam, and I'm gonna clip into the curves here and then turn that right sides out. The collar is now attached to the bodice. I still am not wearing the corset, so I still can't actually close the bodice, but now I can go ahead and put a little bit of bias tape over this edge right here to kind of seal that edge all down, and then I can finally put the facings on the front of the bodice. The collar is sewn down with the bias tape, even like the hand sewing is done, and I've also added the facing to the front, though this still needs to be sewn by hand along the edge, but these are now ready for buttons and buttonholes. However, I want to do a little try on first, and one of the things that I'm concerned about is the fact that I thought that this was the right length, but then when I moved the seam allowance away and put on the facing here, you will notice that there's like a little fold here. I don't know if that's going to show. I'm a little bit worried that it is, and I might have to reset this whole collar, which would really suck because I would be like unpicking the hand sewing and everything. So I'm going to try this on and we'll see what this looks like. Well, I just discovered one other problem that I seem to like run into, I don't know, too often when I'm doing facing, which is I made both edges a point. Obviously that doesn't work, so I have to fix something there so that you can't see the bottom one underneath the top one. So unfortunately, I do have multiple things to adjust because not only do I have to fix actually both points, because you can see that they are crossing over each other, so that obviously does not work at all. And honestly, that's probably going to change at least a bit of the shape of this in general as well. So yeah, I'm gonna have to take off the facing at least down there and change things around. I do like to face my points. I find that it's easier to turn them to get a nice point, so I'll probably still apply the facing, just cut it differently. But also this collar is definitely not working right, so I have to do something with that collar to get it to work better. But yeah, unfortunately that's going to mean undoing the facing and undoing the collar here and redoing that, including the hand sewing. I also don't love how the collar is crunching, but I mean, without like literally doing this the actual old school way with like hair canvas and tailoring stitches and all of that sort of stuff that I frankly don't know how to do, I don't think I can get the collar to be nicer. I don't have the materials available to me at this time to get it to be nicer, which is making me annoyed because I don't like the way it's crunching. But obviously this interfacing sucks. And yeah, I know this hasn't been a very positive video. Between the smocking and the issues right here, and of course this is the end of this video. So we're going to have to fix these issues in the next video and continue the just like sewing machine type of smocking also in the next video. This is what the second ruffle looks like so far. So I pulled up the gathering in this section over here. All of the gathering stitches are laid in the entire rest of the ruffle. They are just not pulled up. However, I still have one other ruffle that hopefully you can see back there. That one needs to be like sewn, hemmed, etc., and have the gathering stitches on it. And I also have one further ruffle. The bottom ruffle is not even cut yet. It is still fabric. So I have a lot of work left to do. Did not get as much done as I wanted to. And actually you're going to see a break in these videos for the next week, if not 2 weeks, because my mom is visiting and I don't really want to be doing like sewing stuff while she is visiting. So you'll be getting some other content there. Don't worry, there still will be videos, just not the rainbow bustle. This will come back in a couple of weeks. That's really making me annoyed. I might have to honestly redo this entire collar. Ugh. And of course, I can't run to Joann's to get interfacing. I don't know how to choose interfacing beyond like going and ordering hair canvas online and getting like the actual stuff. I don't know where to go for interfacing anymore. This sucks. Oh my gosh, sorry. I know I'm ending on such a negative note, but hopefully you have enjoyed this video anyway. I know that some of you really do enjoy videos where I or other creators struggle, because I know that we are all struggling in our costume creation. Like, I know that that's a thing that all of us go through. I mean, if you don't, I guess kudos to you, but most of us do struggle. It is not all smooth sailing. A lot of people might have you believe that it is all smooth sailing in their videos and everything looks all hunky-dory and fantastic, but frankly, costuming's hard. And even if you have been doing this for 15 years like I have been, costuming is still hard. And when the world goes and takes away all of your local resources, costuming gets even harder. And I know we are all struggling with that right now. Anyway, if you like this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week, usually with sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays, and sometimes with additional costume related content or lately shorts out on Saturdays. But I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks or join my YouTube channel memberships right here on YouTube below the video. I'd also like to take this time to thank my absolutely amazing patrons, without whom this would not be possible to do any of this amount of videos, particularly my patrons at the Romantic, Victorian, and Edwardian level tiers, who are Jean, Kim, Audra, Janet, Deborah C, Rowan, Deborah T, Robin, Nurse Anita, Jen, Judd, Nick and Steven, and Eileen. Thank you all so much. And thank you all for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful day, that your sewing projects go well, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!